I always thought the old silver locket around my neck was nothing more than a faded heirloom, a small keepsake passed down without explanation. I never imagined the message hidden inside would rewrite everything I believed about my family, and about myself. The locket had been mine since I was 6, given to me by my grandmother on a quiet summer afternoon. She had pressed it gently into my hand, her eyes soft but unreadable, as if she were giving me something far heavier than its delicate weight suggested. For years, it dangled against my chest, a simple charm I rarely opened, mostly because the tiny hinge was stiff and fragile, and partly because I assumed there was nothing inside worth seeing. But lately, something had changed. It began the night I returned to my childhood home after nearly a decade away. The house felt smaller, quieter, almost as if it had been holding its breath until I crossed the threshold. Boxes of memories surrounded me, and among them, the past crept back into my life in ways I didn't expect. Yet nothing pulled harder on that past than the locket I found resting at the bottom of an old jewelry tray, colder than I remembered. When I held it, a strange heaviness settled in my chest. It wasn't sadness exactly, more like a tug, a pull towards something long forgotten. A truth waiting. That night, as rain tapped gently against the window, I felt an urge to open it. Maybe it was nostalgia, maybe it was desperation. My life recently had felt unsteady, filled with questions and unfinished edges. The locket suddenly felt like a missing piece. I sat on the floor, the room dim, the only light coming from a small lamp humming on the dresser. My fingers trembled as I worked the tiny hinge, the cold metal warming slowly against my touch. For a moment, I hesitated, wondering why I felt as if I were about to uncover something I wasn't prepared for. Then, with a soft click, it opened. Inside, etched into the thin metal frame, were 6 words I had never seen before. Find what she left behind, love. I stared at the message, my breath catching. She? Who was she? And what had she left behind? Why had no one ever told me there was an inscription at all? And why, after all these years, did it suddenly feel like the message was meant for this moment, right now? The message inside the locket lingered in my mind long after I closed it, the metal pressing warm against my palm as if the words themselves were alive. Find what she left behind, love. The sentence pulsed through me like a quiet heartbeat, steady but unsettling. I tried saying it out loud, hoping the sound of my own voice might unlock some memory I had forgotten, but it only made the room feel heavier, like the walls were listening. I leaned back against the dresser, letting the quiet of the house surround me. The air smelled faintly of cedar and old paper, the scent of a place that hadn't been disturbed in years. Somewhere deep in the house, a floorboard creaked, the kind of sound that used to scare me as a child. Now, it just reminded me how empty everything felt. My grandmother had always been a woman wrapped in gentle mysteries. She spoke in soft riddles, told stories that sounded like fairy tales but carried truths I didn't understand at the time. She would braid my hair by the window, hum old melodies, and hold the locket between her fingers as if it were a compass pointing toward something invisible. But she never told me what the inscription meant. She never mentioned that someone else, she, was part of its story. I pushed myself up from the floor and walked toward the old wooden chest at the foot of the bed. It belonged to my grandmother, and for as long as I could remember, she kept it locked. After she passed, my mother placed it in this room but never opened it. She claimed she didn't want to disturb my grandmother's things, but now, staring at it, I wondered if she simply couldn't. The key still hung from a thin ribbon on the wall hook. I reached for it, the ribbon brittle with age. For a moment, I held the key tightly, feeling its cool metal bite into my palm. Something inside me whispered that whatever my grandmother left behind might be hidden in this chest. I knelt beside it and slowly turned the key. The old lock resisted, groaning as if it had been asleep for years. When it finally clicked open, a rush of cool, dusty air escaped, carrying with it a faint, familiar scent, lavender and something sweeter, something that tugged at a forgotten part of me. Inside lay letters tied with fraying string, photographs curled at the edges, and a small velvet pouch that looked untouched by time. For the first time since reading the message in the locket, I felt a tremor of something that might have been hope or fear. Maybe both. My hands trembled as I reached into the chest, brushing against the stack of letters tied neatly with string. The paper was thin and yellowed, soft at the edges like it had been touched many times. I lifted the bundle carefully, half expecting the delicate pages to crumble. A faint floral scent rose from them, my grandmother's perfume, the one she wore every day, the scent I hadn't smelled in years. It struck something deep in me, something tender and aching. I set the letters aside for a moment and picked up the velvet pouch. It was small, no bigger than my palm, and far lighter than I expected. The fabric was smooth, untouched by dust, as if someone had placed it there recently even though I knew that wasn't possible. My grandmother had been gone for years, and no one had opened this chest since. When I loosened the tiny drawstring and looked inside, I found a single item wrapped in thin tissue paper. I unfolded it slowly, breath catching in my throat. It was a ring. A simple gold band, worn and slightly dented, like it had lived a long and complicated life. The moment I touched it, something inside me tightened, a memory I couldn't fully grasp, like hearing a melody you know but can't name. I held the ring to the light, and on the inside of the band, barely visible after years of wear, were initials. E.M. My grandmother's initials, but paired with another set I didn't recognize. E.M. plus L.J. I blinked, confused. Growing up, I never heard of anyone with those initials. My grandfather's name didn't match. No close family member I knew. I felt a slow unease ripple through me as I closed my fingers around the ring. Why would she hide this? Why keep it locked away rather than tell anyone? The letters suddenly felt heavier beside me, as if they held the answers I wasn't sure I wanted. I untied the string with careful fingers, separating the first envelope from the stack. My name wasn't on it, instead, written in soft cursive, were the words. For my granddaughter, when she's ready. My breath hitched. My chest tightened. Ready for what? I slid the first letter out, the paper whispering against itself. As I unfolded it, I recognized the handwriting immediately, soft looping strokes I had seen on birthday cards and recipe notes. Her handwriting. My grandmother's voice came alive in the curve of every letter. I swallowed hard and began to read. But before I could take in the first full sentence, something in the hallway shifted, a faint thump, like someone brushing against the wall. The house had been silent until now, unmoving, almost frozen. Suddenly, it felt like the past itself was stirring. I looked toward the doorway, heart thudding, the letter trembling in my hands. And for the first time since arriving, I felt like I wasn't alone. I held my breath, listening. The quiet stretched through the hallway, thick and still, but the sound I'd heard moments ago lingered in my chest like an echo. I told myself it was just the old house settling, wood shifting with the change in weather, but something about it didn't feel like that. It felt deliberate. Soft. Almost cautious. The letter trembled in my hand as I forced my attention back to the page. My grandmother's handwriting curled across the paper in gentle sweeps. My dear girl. If you are reading this, it means life has brought you back to where everything began. I hope you came home not out of pain, but out of longing, a longing for truth, for clarity, for the love you were always meant to know. I paused, a heaviness settling in my chest. It felt like she was speaking directly into the quiet room, her voice brushing against my ear the way it had when she told me bedtime stories. The letter continued. There is a part of our family's history that I kept hidden, not out of shame, but out of protection. Some truths are too sharp for a child to hold. But now, you are grown, and I believe the truth will not break you. Instead, I believe it will lead you back to someone you have been missing your whole life. My pulse picked up. Someone I had been missing? There was no one missing from my life, at least no one I knew of. My parents, complicated as they were still alive. My grandmother was the only person I had truly lost. I swallowed, reading on. You must find what she left behind. She wanted you to know her, to understand what she carried and why she made the choices she did. The locket was the start, but the ending is yours to uncover. My eyes lingered on the word she. The same she from the locket. Someone tied to the ring, the initials, the chest. The house creaked again, a long, slow sigh that made me lift my head. The air felt different, cooler somehow, weighted with something I couldn't name. The shadows in the hallway stretched a little farther, as though the house had shifted in sympathy with the letter. I folded the page carefully and placed it beside me. My hands were shaking now, but not from fear. From knowing the ground beneath my life was beginning to move, quietly, but undeniably. I reached for the next envelope, thicker, sealed tightly. My grandmother's handwriting on the front was more rushed, almost urgent, as if she had written it in a moment of overwhelming emotion. Before I could open it, the light flickered. Once. Twice. Then steadied again. My heart thudded hard. Maybe it was nothing. Probably it was nothing. Old wiring. A loose bulb. But standing there, surrounded by my grandmother's secrets, with letters that felt like they were guiding me step by step towards something I wasn't sure I was ready to face. It didn't feel like nothing at all. The room seemed quieter after the light steadied, as if the house were waiting for me to continue. I held the second envelope for a long moment, feeling the weight of it, not heavy in my hands, but heavy in meaning. The seal was still intact, a little cracked from age but unbroken. Whoever my grandmother had written this for, she had wanted the message to stay untouched until the right time. I slid my thumb under the seal and opened it slowly, carefully, as if rushing might disturb the emotions pressed into the paper. Inside was a letter written on thicker stationery, the kind she reserved for anniversaries or deeply personal notes. I unfolded it gently. My sweet girl. If you have reached this letter, then the first has already found its place in your heart. What I am about to tell you may feel like stepping into a story you never knew you were a part of. But you are. More than you can imagine. A prickle ran up my spine. Before you were born, before your mother was even grown, there was someone in our family who lived in shadows. Not because she wanted to, but because circumstances pushed her there. Her name was Lila. Layla. The LJ from the ring? My pulse quickened as I continued reading. Lila was your mother's older sister. You never met her, and your mother rarely spoke of her. She was gentle, artistic, and full of a love that frightened the world around her. When she was young, she made choices that others didn't approve of, choices that led her down a difficult road. But she never stopped loving us. And she never stopped hoping for forgiveness. My breath caught. My mother never mentioned having a sister. Not once. When Lila disappeared from our lives, she left something behind, something meant for you. She wanted you to have it because she believed you would understand her in ways no one else ever could. My hand drifted toward the velvet pouch again, fingers brushing the smooth fabric. The ring was hers. The initials are hers. The love engraved in the metal was the story she never got the chance to tell. I hid it because your mother wasn't ready, and perhaps because I wasn't either. I blinked hard, emotions blurring the neat lines of my grandmother's handwriting. If you wish to know who she truly was, you must look for the final letter. She hid it in a place where she once felt safe, a place she said you, someday, would understand. My throat tightened. Where would someone lost and hurting hide a final message? Where would someone like Lila feel safe? I held the letter to my chest, breathing slowly, trying to steady the storm forming inside me. A sister my mother never spoke of. A ring lovingly preserved. A message etched into a locket meant to guide me long after my grandmother was gone. The past wasn't just whispering anymore. It was calling. I sat on the floor, surrounded by letters and memories, feeling the weight of what I had just discovered pressing down on me. A sister my mother never mentioned. Layla. The thought spun in my mind, filling gaps I didn't know existed. Questions I didn't even know how to ask began to surface, each one heavier than the last. Why did my mother hide her? Why did my grandmother keep these secrets so carefully? And most of all, why now, after all these years, did the locket push me toward the truth? I looked back at the velvet pouch and the ring inside. The gold seemed warmer now, as if it held a pulse of life, a message waiting to be understood. I ran my fingers over the initials again, tracing the LJ carefully. It felt familiar in a way I couldn't explain, like it belonged to my own heartbeat. I knew I had to follow the instructions in the letter, the part about finding the final message, hidden where Lila had once felt safe. But the letter didn't say where. That meant I had to think like her, to step into her shoes, to imagine the spaces she loved and the corners of the house she considered her sanctuary. The attic flashed in my mind immediately. Lila had been an artist, painting and drawing in secret. My grandmother used to mention how she would disappear up there for hours, creating worlds she never shared. The thought of climbing the narrow wooden steps, the air thick with dust and shadows, made my stomach tighten. But the pull from the locket, from the letters, from the tiny clue etched in its metal, made the fear shrink to a whisper. I gathered the letters carefully, placing them back in the chest, and took the velvet pouch with me. Each step toward the attic felt heavier, and lighter at the same time, like walking between the past and the present. The old floorboards groaned under my weight, echoing in the quiet house, announcing my presence to walls that had held so many secrets. At the top of the stairs, I paused. The attic door stood before me, its paint peeling and its latch stiff. My grandmother's words echoed in my mind. She hid it where she once felt safe, a place you would someday understand. I exhaled slowly, hand resting on the doorknob, and turned it. The door creaked open, revealing the dusty room bathed in the soft glow of evening light filtering through the small window. The scent of old paper, paint, and faint lavender greeted me. Lila's presence felt alive here, preserved in the quiet corners she had claimed as her own. And then I saw it. A small wooden box tucked beneath the window, carved delicately with floral patterns, as if waiting for me to notice. My heart raced. Could this be the final message? I stepped closer, hands trembling. The small wooden box sat quietly beneath the attic window. Dust settled on its surface as though it had been waiting patiently for years. I bent down slowly, brushing away a thin layer of dust and cobwebs. The carvings felt intricate under my fingertips, tiny roses and leaves etched with care. Whoever had made this box had poured something into it, a piece of their heart, maybe even their soul. I lifted the lid carefully. Inside, nestled on faded velvet, was a bundle of folded papers tied with a ribbon. My breath caught. This had to be it, the final message my grandmother's letters spoke of. A chill ran down my spine, part excitement, part fear, as I untied the ribbon and unfolded the first sheet. The handwriting was unmistakable. Loops and swirls I had seen in her letters. But this one wasn't my grandmother's. This was Lila's own hand, delicate and flowing, but with a quiet strength that spoke volumes. To my dearest family. If you are reading this, I hope it finds you in a moment of calm, where you can breathe and remember me without pain. I left because I had to, not because I didn't love you. My choices were my own, and the world judged me before they understood. But my love for you all never faded. My chest tightened. Each word seemed to settle into me, slow and deliberate, as if it had traveled through time to reach me exactly when I was ready. I traced the letters with my finger, feeling her presence in the curves of each word. To my niece or nephew, though I have never met you, I leave these pieces of my heart, hoping one day you will understand. Your grandmother kept me safe in the shadows, and now, I leave you my story, so it will not be lost, so love can endure. I looked around the attic, suddenly feeling Lila's presence more than ever. The faint lavender scent, the delicate arrangements of her forgotten art supplies, the quiet warmth of the sunlight, all of it made the room feel alive, as if she were here, waiting, guiding me. I unfolded another sheet. The letters continued, speaking of moments I could barely imagine, her secret visits to the garden behind the house, the poems she had written late at night, the hopes she had for our family. Every word was laced with longing, with a hope that someone, someday, would finally understand. Tears blurred my vision as I realized the weight of what I held. Lila had trusted me with her truth. She had reached across time to ensure her story was finally heard. And then I saw something tucked at the bottom of the box, a small folded piece of paper, different from the letters. I unfolded it carefully. It was a map. Drawn by hand, with delicate lines and symbols that made my heart race. A map that seemed to lead somewhere inside the house, somewhere Lila wanted me to find. Somewhere she had left a final part of herself. I stared at the hand-drawn map, tracing the lines with my finger. It was simple yet intricate, like a secret path only someone who knew the house intimately could understand. Symbols marked corners, windows, and objects I recognized from memory, my grandmother's old rocking chair, the fireplace, the narrow hallway leading to the back garden. And at the very end, a small X drawn delicately near the base of the garden wall. My heart pounded. This wasn't just a letter. This was a journey, a final invitation from Lila to connect with her, to understand her in a way words alone could never convey. I realized the locket, the letters, the ring, it had all been leading to this moment, guiding me step by step toward her truth. I climbed down from the attic, careful not to trip over the old stairs, the letters and map clutched tightly in my hands. The house seemed to sense the purpose now, each creak and groan a quiet witness to my determination. Even the air felt different, warmer, heavier with anticipation, as though the house itself remembered Lila and was welcoming me to uncover her secret. Once outside, the garden seemed smaller than I remembered, yet somehow familiar in every way. The flowers my grandmother had tended were still blooming in the late afternoon sun, their petals soft and gentle against the green of the lawn. I followed the map carefully, each step measured, heart racing with a mix of excitement and fear. The X marked the base of a small, ivy-covered wall at the back of the garden. My fingers brushed against the rough stone, searching for anything hidden, anything left behind. And there it was, a small, weathered tin box, tucked into a crevice of the wall, almost invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. I pulled it free, feeling the weight of it in my hands, heavy not just with its contents but with the years of love and longing it had carried. Inside, carefully wrapped in soft cloth, was a delicate necklace, different from the locket, but familiar in its sentiment. And beneath it, a folded letter, yellowed with age. I unfolded it with trembling hands, and as I read Lila's handwriting, tears sprang to my eyes. My dear one. If you have found this, it means you are ready to understand me, to hold my memory with kindness, and to let love be stronger than the silence. I am with you in every choice, every memory, every step you take forward. The wind rustled gently through the trees, carrying the faint scent of lavender. I closed my eyes, feeling Lila's presence around me, warm and gentle, like a hand brushing against my cheek. The story, the journey, the message in the locket, it all finally made sense. I realized then that love, even when hidden or lost, always finds its way back. I held the necklace and the letter close to my chest, letting the warmth of Lila's words sink into me. The garden around me seemed to breathe with the memory of her presence, the soft sway of flowers, the distant rustle of leaves in the breeze, the golden light of late afternoon falling on everything like a gentle embrace. For the first time in years, I felt a connection to someone I had never known, a bond that spanned generations and secrets. The realization hit me fully. This journey was never just about the locket, the letters, or the ring. It was about understanding, about holding love without fear, about finding the courage to embrace truths long hidden. My grandmother's careful guidance, her insistence that I wait until I was ready, all made sense now. She had known I would need the time, the space, the growth to truly understand Lila's story, and to feel it as my own. I sat on the garden bench for a long while, the necklace resting gently against my heart, the letters stacked beside me. Each word, each memory, each piece of this hidden family history felt alive. I could almost hear Lila's voice in the wind, soft and clear, urging me to carry her story forward, not as a burden, but as a gift. A thought came then, simple and profound. The love my grandmother and Lila had preserved across years, hidden and protected, was now entrusted to me. I could feel it pulsing gently in my chest, a rhythm of understanding, forgiveness, and enduring connection. It wasn't just history, it was life, flowing through me, waiting to be honored. I stood slowly, the sunlight warming my back. The garden, the attic, the locket, the ring, they were all pieces of a puzzle I had spent a lifetime unknowingly solving. And now the picture was complete. The message etched inside the locket, the hidden letters, Lila's final note, they had all led to this moment, clarity, closure, and a deep, abiding sense of love. As I walked back toward the house, the necklace around my neck felt like a heartbeat, steady and sure. I knew that, though Lila had been lost to the world, her presence would remain with me, woven into the life I lived and the love I carried forward. And in that quiet understanding, I finally felt at peace. Back inside the house, I carefully placed the letters, the necklace, and the ring on the old wooden table in the living room. Sunlight spilled across the floor, catching the edges of the paper and the glint of gold, as if illuminating the path that had brought me here. Every object felt sacred, each one carrying the weight of secrets and the light of long-hidden love. I ran my fingers over the locket resting against my chest. Its tiny hinge now felt like a gateway, not just to memories, but to understanding. All the years of wondering, of small unanswered questions about my family, suddenly made sense. The message etched inside was more than words, it was a guide, a gentle nudge toward truth, and now, I finally understood what it had meant all along. For a long while, I sat quietly, letting the emotions settle. The house seemed alive with echoes of the past, Lila's laughter in the attic, my grandmother humming in the kitchen, the soft footsteps of memories long buried. Each sound, each memory, reminded me that love, even when hidden, leaves traces that time cannot erase. I thought of my mother. She had never mentioned Lila, but I understood now. She had been protecting me, shielding me from pain she hadn't been ready to explain. My grandmother had protected both of us in her own way. And now, the torch had been passed to me, to carry the love forward, to embrace the history that had once been hidden in shadows. I picked up the letters again, reading snippets aloud softly, savoring the voice of someone I had never met but had come to know intimately. I could almost picture Lila sitting at her desk, writing with care, thinking of the family she loved yet had to leave behind. And then, I looked at the window. The garden outside seemed brighter, alive in a new way, as if it too celebrated the unveiling of secrets. The wind stirred gently, whispering through the leaves, carrying with it a feeling of completeness I hadn't realized I was longing for. The journey hadn't been just about discovery, it had been about healing. About understanding that even in absence, love endures, and the messages left behind are gifts, waiting for the right moment to be received. For the first time in a long time, I felt whole. Even as evening settled over the house, I remained by the table, the letters and necklace laid out before me. The light dimmed slowly, painting golden streaks across the room, and I realized how much time had passed without my noticing. The hours had slipped by like a gentle stream, carrying me through memories, discoveries, and emotions I hadn't expected. I picked up the locket again, feeling the familiar weight in my hand. The inscription, "Find what she left behind, love," no longer felt like a mysterious puzzle. It felt like a promise kept, a bridge connecting generations, and a gentle reminder that love persists even when hidden or unspoken. Thoughts of Lila filled my mind. She had lived quietly, choosing paths that were not always understood by the world, yet she had left pieces of herself in ways that would guide me years later. I imagined her watching over me now, her presence soft but firm, like a shadow of light reminding me that I was never truly alone. I ran my fingers over the ring and then the necklace, realizing that these objects were more than heirlooms. They were vessels of memory, carriers of history, and proof that love could transcend absence. My grandmother's care in keeping them safe, her choice to leave them for me, and Lila's courage in recording her story all converged into this single moment of clarity. Tears welled in my eyes, not from sadness, but from recognition. I felt connected, not just to Lila, or my grandmother, or even my mother, but to the enduring thread of love and resilience that had woven through our family quietly, invisibly, yet indestructibly. I whispered aloud, almost unconsciously, "I understand. I finally understand." The words hung in the quiet room, and for the first time, the house felt like home in a way I had never experienced. The walls, the floorboards, even the faint scent of lavender seemed to exhale with me, releasing the decades of secrets it had held so patiently. And as I sat there, holding the necklace close, I realized something profound. The journey had changed me. It had given me patience, empathy, and a deeper understanding of love. It had shown me that even when life feels fragmented, the pieces can come together beautifully, if only we are willing to follow the path laid before us. Night had settled fully now, the house quiet except for the occasional whisper of the wind brushing against the windows. I sat in the soft glow of a single lamp, the letters, ring, necklace, and locket surrounding me like anchors to a story that had finally unfolded. I felt a profound stillness, the kind that comes when something long awaited is finally understood, when mysteries once tangled now make perfect sense. I traced the inscription in the locket one more time. Find what she left behind, love. The words no longer carried mystery or ambiguity, they were a promise realized, a bridge to Lila, and a connection to the love my grandmother had always wanted me to feel. Each piece of this journey, the letters, the ring, the hidden messages, had led me here, to understanding, to closure, and to a quiet, enduring happiness. I thought of my grandmother's wisdom, of her gentle guidance over the years, and I finally understood her quiet strength. She had prepared me, unknowingly, for this moment. The locket was her gentle nudge, the letters her whispered guidance, and now, the legacy of love that had been protected through generations was mine to hold, to cherish, and to honor. I looked around the room, seeing it anew. Every corner, every shadow, every memory preserved within its walls felt alive, as if Lila's presence lingered still, smiling quietly at the peace she had inspired. I felt gratitude swell within me, not just for her courage, but for the opportunity to connect, finally, with a part of my family I never knew I could know. I held the necklace against my chest, the delicate chain warm beneath my fingers. For a long moment, I let myself breathe, savoring the depth of the love that had traveled across years, across absences, across silence, to reach me. It was a quiet, gentle love, but powerful beyond measure, leaving me changed, enriched, and deeply moved. And then I whispered, softly, almost reverently, "Thank you, for trusting me, for leaving this love behind." The words hung in the air, a soft echo of connection, a bridge from past to present, from loss to understanding. In that moment, I realized that the journey wasn't over, it had merely transformed, becoming a living part of me, carried forward in every heartbeat, every memory, and every choice I would make from now on. The house was quiet now, bathed in the soft silver light of the moon streaming through the windows. I held the necklace and the locket together, feeling their weight not as burdens, but as reminders of love preserved, of stories uncovered, and of connections that time could never sever. I thought of Lila, of my grandmother, of my mother, and of the legacy of care, courage, and quiet devotion that had been left for me. It was more than family history, it was a lesson in patience, in empathy, and in the enduring power of love. As I placed the items gently back in the chest, I felt a sense of completion, a peaceful understanding that these stories, once hidden, had now found their place in my heart. And in that moment, I realized that the message etched inside the locket was not just hers, it was ours, carried forward in every act of love and memory we choose to honor. I stepped back from the chest, taking a deep breath, and let the silence wash over me, soft and gentle, carrying the weight of years, of secrets, and of understanding finally found. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story touched your heart, consider leaving a comment to share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to follow more stories that explore love, family, and the hidden connections that shape our lives. Your support helps these stories reach others who need a little light in their lives.